The world that formed around me came from a place I didn't understand, a place shaped by 2 years of grief that never softened, only changed shape. It was the middle of February 2020, and something in me had finally given way. I had cried myself to sleep that night, my body finally giving out. At first there was nothing, just darkness, quiet and complete. And then the darkness began to shift. Then shapes emerged, slow and deliberate, as if someone were painting reality around me, stroke by stroke. Light seeped in, color followed, the air warmed, and I found myself standing in a place I had never seen before, yet it felt impossibly familiar, like a memory I had never lived. To my right rose a massive gray-blue house with white trim, its walls draped in thick, beautiful vines. Ancient oaks surrounded me, towering giants with black bark and bright green leaves that shimmered as sunlight filtered through them. Warm rays touched my skin wherever they landed, while a cool, gentle breeze drifted across me, carrying the scent of flowers and fresh earth. To my left, a soft stream wound its way toward a small pond nestled beneath a younger oak. The grass was a vivid, almost luminous green. Flowers bloomed everywhere, their fragrance sweet and clean. Birds sang delicate songs that seemed to echo inside my chest. Small hills circled the entire area, holding the space like cupped hands. Directly before me stood the largest oak I had ever seen, a colossal being whose branches seemed to stretch for half a mile, scattering sunbeams across the landscape like falling gold. Between the left edge of the house and the eastern hill beneath that giant oak, the land opened into endless blue sky and rolling green fields that seemed to go on forever. I stood there, breathing in a peace I hadn't felt in years, a peace so deep it felt like it was touching the parts of me that grief had hollowed out. Then my eyes caught on an old arched metal workshop to the northeast. Its two large doors stood wide open. The back half of the workshop was built into the small hill behind it. It was aged, but sturdy, the kind of place that had lived many lives. Curiosity pulled me toward it. I stepped into the doorway and found work tables running down the center, cabinets and countertops lining the walls, old tools and farming equipment scattered throughout. Soft lights glowed near the back. The air smelled of oil, metal, and thyme, the same comforting scent I remembered from my grandpa's shed when I was a girl. I wandered deeper, letting my fingers trail across cool metal and powdery rust. Something in me softened. Something in me remembered what it felt like to be small and safe. Then I reached the glowing row and realized the light came from fish tanks. I bent down to look inside and froze. These were my fish, the ones that had died in the big 2018 Alaskan earthquake when their tank burst like a balloon and everything in my entire house began falling and shattering around me. Yet here they were, alive, swimming peacefully as if nothing had ever happened. Shock rippled through me, confusion, recognition, and then a rising anxiety, sharp and electric. I stood up quickly and looked around for any explanation, any sign of someone else. There was nothing, no one. The wind outside began to stir. I couldn't tell if my panic was feeding the storm or if the storm was feeding my panic, but they rose together like twin tides. Soon the wind was so fierce that pieces of the workshop began tearing away, sunlight pouring through the gaps. Branches whipped wildly across the beams of light. Then, through the roar of the wind, I heard heavy pounding above me. I looked up through the new holes in the roof and saw a massive creature galloping overhead. It leapt down into the yard, a giant stag with antlers larger than any I had ever seen. Beautiful, terrifying. It turned, looked straight at me, then bounded away into the endless sky and fields. My anxiety spiked. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know why my dead fish were alive. I didn't know how I had fallen asleep in my bed and awakened here. Everything felt real. The smells, the textures, the warmth of the sun. Too real to dismiss. Not wanting to step into the violent storm outside, I turned back toward the western wall and kept looking around, trying to form some kind of plan. When I turned toward the doors again, someone was standing there. My breath stopped. It was my husband. Shock slammed through me, the most intense I had ever felt. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. I moved toward him slowly, almost floating. He was wearing strange clothing, a red puffy vest and cut-off jean shorts, nothing else. Something he never would have worn in life. He was playing with something red and fuzzy in his hands, not looking up at me. As I got closer, I saw it was a fishing lure. Odd, because he had never been into fishing. But before I could think too much about it, the grief hit me like a physical force. I broke down, sobbing, repeating, "I'm so sorry," over and over. My heart felt like it was being torn in half. He finally looked up, tears streaming down his face too, and said, "I'm sorry too." He pulled me into an embrace. I felt his warmth, his arms around me. My body began to relax into him. Then he spoke again, mind to mind. "I broke the law to bring you here." I was confused and thought to myself, "They have laws here?" He continued, "I need you to let go, to move on, and to forgive me and yourself. Your grief is creating violent storms here." His words began to fade. The light dimmed, the colors dissolved, and I drifted back into darkness where I suddenly awoke in my bed, sobbing, arms still in the shape of a hug, still feeling his warmth. As time went on, I often pondered this experience, especially when I remembered he had told me he had broken the law. I assumed he meant the laws of the land, but eventually it dawned on me. He meant the laws of physics, the ones that keep worlds separate. Then I realized something else. This was my paradise, not my husband's. He would have never chosen this place. And if it wasn't his paradise, then my grief had been destroying my paradise. I went deeper and deeper, considering how no human, living or dead, has the ability to alter physics. So, who really brought me there? And whose arms was I really in? Something in me changed after that night. Peace still eludes me, but my grief softened into numbness because I just can't fully move on. I've kept myself shackled, not because I don't want freedom, but because I don't know how to embrace it. I think my peace stayed behind in my paradise.